Well, welcome to the Harbor.Church podcast. I am your host of these bonus episodes. My name is John Petty. I am the worship director at Harbor.Church. And I got to tell you, I've asked a lot of people to do these podcasts with me as an effort to bring some of the conversations that we have as a worship team, but really just in general, just talk a little bit about what worship means for our church. And I've asked a lot of people to do that. This person that I have on is my favorite on that list. This is the wonderful, you know her, you love her, the Joanne Petty, my mom. Welcome, Mom.
Hi. I'm glad I'm your favorite. That makes me feel a little better.
You are high on the list of my favorite
good.
people.
That's good.
Welcome. I'm glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here. It's pretty cool.
Amongst being one of the most phenomenally talented people that we have, you're also a very wise person. You've lived a long life of following Jesus, and I think that we'd have a lot to glean. Before we really kind of jump into what we're going to talk about, I would like to hear, I kind of know, but for the people, sort of what your journey into just being on worship teams, into music in the church. Give us a little bit about that. How did you fall into this?
Okay, well, I know for me, my whole life has always been music. It's been a part of me forever.
Yeah.
I've always had a special connection with music, very much musical family. My dad introduced us to all kinds of music when I was a kid. And, going through school, I did choir and all kinds of things like that. It wasn't until I became a Christian when I came to Christ about 19 and began to realize, that God places passion in you for purpose, right? So I began to realize, okay, well, there's a reason why I've always been really connected to music. And it was a long journey. And I tell this because a lot of people don't know, because they see me up there now and they're like, oh, wow. But it was a really hard journey for me.
Yeah, I remember.
In the early stages, I had extreme anxiety. Mm-hmm. I didn't like doing it. Yeah. It was hard for me to get up and do it because I played piano behind a pull-down screen.
Behind the projector screen, man.
I would get physically sick every time I would do it. And so it was a long journey and coming into being able to do it on a regular basis. Yeah. And but yeah, and I've always tried to incorporate music into my ministry. I led children's choirs and things like that. You were part of that.
Got my start there.
Johnny was a little guy in there doing that. But yeah, and so now it's cool. I'm at a cool place in my life where I'm old, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I feel not confidence in myself, but confidence in what I believe the gift that God has given me, and just not being sheepish about it. Because for a long time it was always like, oh, I'd be embarrassed when I don't want to. But it's not about me. It's about saying, okay, God, you've given me this gift for whatever reason. I can't take credit for my singing voice. Yeah. That's I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. It's something God gave me, and to use it in a way with confidence, knowing God, you gave me this. I'm going to use it for your glory. And that's kind of where I'm at with it now. And I'm really blessed in the Harbor Worship, because there's all these incredible young people who I get to work with and kind of just watch their progression and growth and see myself in them. And
it's really cool, man.
Yeah, just to be a part of watching the ministry grow, and it's been really cool. Yeah,
no, it has been. I think for me being your son, it's always enjoyable that we get to do it together. It's very kind of a special thing. I believe that God's very gracious to us that we get to do it very together. But on the note, because I feel the same way. I feel often that even before I really learned how to play guitar or learned to be on stage or any of that, God put in me a desire for music. Mm-hmm. I just love it so much. But I think that we can kind of take music as a part of our service as something that's kind of for granted. We get together and we sing some songs, and I'd like to hear your kind of thoughts on why are we using music in this way? Do we see that in the Bible? Is that just something that we've come up with on our own? Kind of, what do you think about that?
Well, I think, music scripturally, I mean, I often think, like, why did God include the book of Psalms? I mean, the Psalms really just are songs and poet and just a man's, I mean, obviously inspired by God, but like a man's reflection of his relationship with God and his questions to God and his feelings about his own sin and his own, you know, and who God is.
Yeah.
And I think those are the earliest, like, I don't know, representations or examples of worship or of man saying, I'm going to just like pour out my heart in a good way sometimes and questions and, you know, Lord, you are so good, you know, praise your holy name. I feel like it's very scriptural.
Yeah.
And I think what music does, I think in corporate worship is it allows people to kind of get into a different headspace. To quiet the other noise that's out there and get themselves centered on what on what they're really here to hear is
God's word.
God's word. But I think sometimes in order to prepare ourselves to hear the word of God, we have to kind of humbly subject ourselves underneath who God is. And I think that's what worship does, or what's worship. I think worship should do. Is get us kind of almost prostrate.
Helps us get low, man.
You know, get
for
ourselves
sure.
to a place where we recognize why we're here.
I think to speak to the broader context of church in general, I think because I would say probably with that Jesus movement in the 70s, worship music in the church has changed quite a bit. You know, in the church that I grew up in, we sang a lot of hymns. You know, it was open up your hymnal to 337 and we're going to read lines 1, 2, and 6. And you know, that's kind of how you do it together. Now, obviously, we've added some things to that. And I think that there can be some aversion to that, like it's a show, it's a spectacle, it's a concert, and I would kind of like to hear what you think about that, because I understand the critics. Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm a worship leader, and I hear that and I say, yeah, maybe some of what we do is a show. How do we, as a church, do this right? And I think even just for, you know, if there is a worship leader listening or someone that does worship, how do we get outside of, like, this is just a show with some awesome drums and guitar and lights and all of the business that we add to it. Can that production of like high production value, can it still be something that does what that part of our service is supposed to do? Can it still cause us to actually draw into worship?
I think so. I think if we look at, you know, the timeline of worship, it's going to reflect the time that it's in.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I've been a Christian for, you know, 40, well, not quite 40 years, but 35 years. And I've watched even just the evolution of it in my own Christian walk, where it's going to reflect the time that it's in. We live in a very multimedia, you know, instantaneous sounds and buzzers and lights kind of society.
Right.
So that, I mean, naturally that would be part of what we do in order to kind of minister to the people that we're trying to minister to, right? I think not that I don't think those songs can be powerful, because there have been times where I've been in more, I would say, like traditional style churches than Harbor, and hear, you know, a hymn and it'll affect me. But I think we have to understand that, like, it's going to change and evolve. There's going to be a time where, you know, you're going to be, you're going to be the one that's being like, what is this all about? But I think of Paul as like, become all things, all people. You know, that the gospel is presented. That's what we want. I think the only thing we have to challenge ourselves with, I think, as musicians, and because I've said this before, I believe God created us as performers, and I sometimes I hate to say it because people are like, but it's very true.
That's what we're doing.
The more God has given us the ability to kind of be able to translate music to people. People in the secular world do this all the time. They have the it factor, right? I mean, you think of like certain. Why do certain people make it and certain people don't? It's not because necessarily they're more talented. They have that it factor. They have the ability to draw people in with either their lyrics or their person. And I think God gives that to them. Of course, right? God gives it to us. You know, people will say to me, "Oh, like, you know, I really connected with you on that song." Like, okay, well, that's not me, right? But I have the ability to be able to translate, and I think the only problem we ever have is when we take it outside of God, like the people that are doing it for the secular reasons, they're doing it and they have that ability, but they're bringing it right back on themselves.
Right.
I want to get the glory. I want to get the esteem. I want to get the recognition.
Yeah.
We, as worshipers, as people that worship God, we want to do it. We want to draw people in, but we want to direct them upward, right? And that's kind of the goal. It's the challenge, I think, because I think.
For sure.
I mean, and I'm just, being transparent with you, like I know for myself, we struggle with that self-glorification when we're in this ministry, because people are always looking at us. They're always telling us how great we sound.
Yeah,
and you can get it like, ooh, that's great, but it's not. Our goal is to not get recognition for ourselves. It's to draw people to Christ. And I think we can do it. And I think we should do it in a way that that reflects our culture, per se, without being sinful, obviously. But I think, we live in a different world.
100%. I always say, like, there's certain things within culture that you reject, right? So there's certain things about culture that we're like, hey, we are a different set apart people. This isn't for us. But there are also things about culture that we can bring into the church and redeem. And there's a fine line there about what we allow into our church services, what we allow into even just our hearts and minds as believers. But there is, I think, a really good utility in saying, like, hey, for the time and day, like if I'm, it doesn't take away the power of a hymn sang in 1932. But that might not be as translatable to somebody that's walking into a church. And really, like you said, the whole idea is not to entertain people. So if it isn't, then I have to find, as a worship leader, I have to think about this in a way of like, what is going to draw people in towards God? What's going to really affect somebody's heart towards God? And if they come in and they hear a hymn that has, a million different words that we don't use in English anymore, they're going to be like, I don't really know what we're doing here. And so there is an aspect of that like, hey, we are going to bring this in not because everything about culture is good and right, but because we trust that God is bigger than that, and that we can redeem some of these things as a church. Because to your point, I think this is the grander point of the music thing in general, is you're exactly right. God has created music, and he's created people with a bend towards it. I think that in large part, like we want to push away from, I think sometimes as a church, you want to push away from being like culture. But when you watch a rock concert, or you go to these festivals and you see that like, even as like a hive of people, we're like drawn towards this thing. We're drawn towards.
They're worshiping the artist,
right? They're going to worship something, right?
Yes.
And so, like, we can use music as a way to do that. I'd be interested to know, kind of, maybe there is somebody that leads worship that's listening to this. How do you like manage that in your own heart? Like, I know for myself, it takes sometimes like all of Sunday leading up for me to like get out of my own way so that I'm not making it about me up there playing guitar and singing. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have. How do you deal with that? Like, how do we kill that performer in us? Like, how do I do that?
Yeah. For me, I have to constantly bring myself back to, because it's a hard line, because I always want to do my best, right? I always I always say, like, I want to be so good, God, that my badness doesn't distract people from you.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to do something really horrible that's going to be like, and reminding myself that, like, he's already pleased with me. Like, I don't have to worry about pleasing people. I've gotten to a real good rhythm with worship where I kind of just say, God, I just want to worship this morning. I don't want to perform. I don't want to I just want to worship. I want to be part of this corporate worship. I want to help these people. My goal here is just to help them internalize this lyric, to see you for who you are, and to touch them in a way that only you can. Yeah. And that's usually my prayer going into it. And I think if we as musicians and performers remind ourselves that it's really not about us or how good we sound, but really how effectively can we engage the congregation, because that's our job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our job, is to get them into a place, again, where they can just kind of shut the world out and really focus on what the lyrics are saying. Oftentimes when I'm leading, I will direct the congregation to I'll give them a little snippet before we're going to sing something like, this is what this is saying here.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you believe that? If you believe that, then sing that.
Then sing it. Yeah.
And sing that and know it from your heart. And I think if we kind of continually do that while we're in the midst of it, it can help us from getting to a place where we're like, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard because I'm a perfectionist. I like to do things right.
Right.
And
like anybody else, you like me, like I like when people tell me I do a good job.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a hard thing.
Right.
It's a hard thing.
Who am I up there to please?
Right. And that's always you just have to always get yourself back to that and remind yourself, this is why I'm doing this. It isn't about how good I sound. Per se, but it's about really just ushering in. And I mean, you've been doing this long enough to know there are times where it, you can feel it. You can, I mean, when there's Sundays where I'm singing and I can just drop out and the congregation is so loud and they're just singing their hearts out and you could feel the presence of God there.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a successful song. And sometimes and I think and I've talked with some of my vocalists about this, and some of that sometimes less is more. Like I think sometimes we across the board, anything that distracts from the worship, whether it be clothing, all that kind of stuff, but also you don't have to do like a big ripping guitar solo here. You don't have to do like a vocal run that's like out of control or do all these crazy vocal fills. You have to be careful because, like, what is it about now?
Right.
Right. So I say sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
Sometimes just singing from your heart with a simple vocal and getting them to sing.
Right.
That's what you want to do.
Right. Because
sometimes if you make it too, I'm sorry. So if you make it too like, crazy, intense, and technically great. Yeah. You're going to lose them.
You're going to lose everybody, 100%.
Because everybody in the congregation are not vocalists or musicians, right? So, yeah. So,
to that point, though, and I think you have a unique perspective because you are married to my dad, which is interesting.
Yes,
you are married to my dad, who is not exactly a super expressive person, and he would be somebody that would say, like, hey, music is good for you. It's not necessarily my thing. He says all the time, like, I can play the radio, and I barely want to play that. What would you say to the person, the congregant, that comes into church and is like, that's great for those people that want to get up on stage and do that. That's not my thing. I'm here to, maybe I'm here to hear the word of God, but I'm just going to stand here and I'm going to stare stoically at the stage and I'm not going to engage at all. Like, what would you say to that person? Because
stop looking at me.
Because that's what I want to say.
That's what I want to say. Stop looking at me like that.
I want to say to the church at whole, like, hey, be engaged in this. But I think that I'll just be honest with you. Like, I've had that thought a million times where I'll see people and I'm like, man, don't you believe that God has been so good? Don't you believe it is well with your soul? Like, how can you not sing this? And I think that God has checked that pride in my heart, because that is what it is. Like, it's a pride for me to be like, you should be engaged with this. You should feel like about this song like I do, or whatever it is. So, like, what would you say to that person that comes in and says, like, hey, this is good for you. It's not really for me. And I'm just going to hear and stand. Like, why is that important for me to be even engaged in it? What's in it for me?
Well, I think because I'm married to somebody who isn't a musician, is not like spurred on by music per se. I understand it, because I don't expect everybody to be as
like demonstrative.
I don't expect everybody to be like that, but I also I feel like it's like saying, well, it's part of what God has ordained for us as a congregation, right? So it's something that we're supposed to do corporately together.
That's right.
And the Bible talks so much about like lifting up praise to the Lord. And so I heard a quote once was like, if you don't like worship or sing, you're going to hate heaven, because because the Bible says we're going to be like glory, glory, glory. Hallelujah in heaven. I mean, the idea that like that's part of it's just an overflowing. Granted, everybody doesn't have the the vocal talent, or they don't have that music doesn't touch them in that way.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's hard for me to understand how someone could hear some of those lyrics and just, I mean, I would just internalize them then.
Yeah.
If you don't want to sing out, and maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just like, I'm not a singer. I'm not a I'm not a hand waver, but the Bible is really, the Bible talks about, lifting holy hands, and,
Right.
it's an attitude of humility.
Yeah.
Of being, of submitting yourselves to God, and during that time where you're just kind of like, this is all about you.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I can sing by myself all day long, right? I mean, I could.
True.
But God, when we get together as a congregation and sing corporately, I think it was Josh was talking about, and it's that physiologically, when people sing together, their breathing patterns
start
coincide,
to match up, and
their heart rhythms. I mean, that to me is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's the idea of like, we're just lifting our voices as one unit, and it's pretty powerful. But I think you can be a part of that without being,
you don't have to do the whole thing.
But don't disengage.
Yes. Right. Be engaged in it. Because I do think that actually, it's a good point. Because if you look at even, let's say, like some of the more liturgical churches that exist, where they're wearing robes and there's certain things, we could easily look at that and be like, that's stuffy and old, and we don't like that. But like a lot of that is designed so that like this is not about anything other than Jesus, that it isn't anything about anything other than God. So like we're all wearing the same thing and doing the same things because it allows us to like get out of the way. And so like to your point, it doesn't have to be, that you're in the congregation like Whitney Houston out there, just singing. Like you can internalize those lyrics in your heart. But to your point, it's like whether or not you choose to be engaged. Because like if I truly want to participate in this thing that God has created in church and participate in the Sunday service, then like I have to engage in this somehow. And maybe that for somebody is just like I close my eyes and I listen, and for some people it's like I'm gonna pray. But I would you brought up a great point, like this biblical thing of like lifting up holy hands. I think that I get like we live in New England, and it's like a little
frozen chosen,
right? Chosen, man. But also like I reject that idea because the New Englanders that I know are some of the most passionate people possible, and so like it doesn't have to be that you're nailing vocal runs in the congregation, but it can be that I put my hands in a different position, that I close my eyes. It can be, by the way, you have full permission. Sit down during worship. Pray. Whatever it is, whatever can get your heart engaged into what's happening. The music is there in so much as to lead us to the throne. That's what we're after. We're trying to engage people in worship. I think that is I think that's great. I was thinking about this when we were getting ready to do this. I was like, what are questions that I can ask my mom that like that I know specifically about her? One of the things that I would be interested to hear your perspective on, this kind of tailors away from the Sunday service, but I actually think that it's in general about worship and this topic of like worship music that we're talking about. So in the house that I grew up in, we didn't listen to secular music. At all.
No.
And we like to make fun of you about that now, but we didn't listen to it at all.
No.
And it wasn't until I got older and as a teenager that I started to like, listen to, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Jay-Z and all these, heathen people. But I say that to say that like I was convicted a little while back to say like, hey man, what are you letting in as far as music wise? And I think that it's easy to relegate the worship songs to Sunday morning. And actually, we deal with this when we try to choose songs. We try to choose songs that are congregational, that everybody can sing together. But there's a lot of really good Christian music out there that isn't congregational, but is really just laced with God's truth. So I would be interested to know actually just from your perspective, I'm sure we've talked about it before, but like, why was that a decision that you made for your home? As someone who loves music like you do, because you're not like this is not a passive music lover we're talking about here. Like you should have seen the amount of cassettes that she had in our basement. Yeah. So why was that a decision you made for your home? And what do you think that did for, like your home in general, for your children and for your life? Like what do you think the goodness in that is?
Well, I think it came about because I was a huge lover of music, and I had more cassette tapes than you could possibly imagine. And when I became a believer, and I started, God really convicted me about it. And I listened to like some of my, I loved Prince. Yeah. I mean, things that were just like not wholesome at all. And there were certain ones that were like, it's not that bad.
Sure.
But God really convicted me about it. And I really, it was kind of like, I was thinking about it, praying about it one day, and it was kind of like, it's like garbage in, garbage out. Like you're infusing this stuff into your head, into your heart. And I don't care what anyone says. You immerse yourself, anything you immerse yourself in, it's affecting you, whether you want to believe it or not. And so, and I had young children, and I'm like, I want good things. I wouldn't want them listening to this for sure. Right. Yeah. And so you set the bar for yourself and say, I'm gonna, and I think for my kids, it was, I think that, it's a big joke now because now I was like, oh, Mom, but, I used to buy them, Christian CDs, and like they had all these bands that they liked. They had no idea what
Mom would make me a mixtape or two,
They had no idea what the current, I always say the 90s were like a lost decade because I knew no music from them. I was pretty hip on new music, and the 90s were like, because that was all Christian music. But I think what it did and what it helped me do was to just keep, I could basically say to my kids, yeah, that's garbage. Why you listen to that? And I had a platform to stand on because I wasn't listening to things as well. So I think, obviously I'm a little less, I listen to a lot of secular stuff now. Obviously I try to keep it moderately clean, but when my kids were, it was just different. It was a different atmosphere and environment that I wanted in my home. Yeah. And, But I was really hardline on it for a while. I was pretty like, almost like, secular music is you
can't listen to it at all.
And I think someone once said to me, it's like, you just watch Christian movies, do you? Like it's just entertainment, right? Sure. So, but that being said, we have to have discernment on what we allow our ears and our hearts to listen to, because even people that aren't like musically like nuts like necessarily we are, music is an effective medium. Oh, it is. Right? We listen to music when we're happy. We listen to music when we're sad. I mean, you hear the what is it? Come on, Joanne. National anthem, and you get patriotic. It's like you hear it and you're like, oh, I love America.
Listen, there's a song out there, just so you know, if you have a young child. I have a 5-month-old baby at home. There is a song out there that doctors have decided this clinically will make them happier. Okay. It is called the Happy Song. Oh. And let me tell you, it works.
Yeah, does it make you happy too?
It doesn't make me happy at all. Well, it makes me happy because my baby stops crying. Yeah. But to that point, like I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something.
Right. So music is a medium, and I think, back when I was a teenager, there was a whole reign of like heavy metal music that was really dark. Yeah. And people would listen to that, and it's like you can't say that doesn't affect you and how you think. Does.
Yeah, of course.
And just like, so for me, it was just it was more to just kind of like, with my children, just to be like, you know what, I'm holding this line, and I can speak into it because, and it was important to me, like what was being put in there.
And I think to a larger spiritual point anyway, like I feel this about a lot of things. Like when the Bible says like there's like all things are permissible, but not all things are profitable. Yeah. Like there is this idea that like what I take in often can affect me in ways that I don't actually see. And so like it is okay to say like, yeah, I can listen to some secular music. I'm not reading anywhere in the Bible. I can't do that. And maybe this isn't for everybody, but like there's certain inputs that we put into our life that can really affect where we are emotionally and spiritually and mentally. That like, if I'm not careful, I'm allowing things into my life that are not wholly God. And I think, honestly, what it has become for me is, like, am I only listening to this type of music? Like, I'm a worship leader. I should want to listen to worship music, I suppose. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't want to at all. And like, maybe that's more of an indication of what's in my heart. It doesn't mean that secular music is inherently evil.
No.
It just means that, like, is this building me up is it profitable for me? And I think to kind of continue with what you were saying, there's the one side of that, like, hey, I don't want my kids to listen to this because this isn't so good. I'm not really this. There's some of this that's bad. But what do you think? Do you think, like, for like the mom that has, a bunch of kids, or the dad who's trying to figure out how to, spiritually lead his household, like what role does music like this play? Like, does it play a role? Is it something that you feel like, because even more than the, like, hey, don't do this, don't listen to this, does this help your home to do this, to like listen to worship music, to do that as a family? I don't know, just curious.
I think so. I know for me, like, when I'm listening to, like, it's very hard to like be a jerk when you're listening to, like, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a certain, like, atmosphere that it produces when you're listening to things that, like, you can
that glorify God.
We went, my husband and I, or your dad, and I we just got back from the Dakotas, and we were in Medora, and they do this Medora musical, and it was like, they sang this rendition of How Great Thou Art, and it was just, the whole production was great. Yeah. But that particular, where they just the incredible voices of just like, it was, and I think it changed the atmosphere of the night. Right. It brought it from, oh, this is fun, this is great, to like, wow, this is reverent. This is, and I think music does that in a way that other things can't. So when you immerse yourselves in things like that in your home, I think it's, it'll benefit, it's like I said, it's like garbage in, garbage out. And like, it just produces something different that secular music really can. Yeah, no,
I think you're exactly right. And that's why, look, to answer any question of like, why is it music? I think that God's designed it that way. Like, it just does. I don't have all of the scientific evidence for it. I'm sure that there's some that exists. I don't have all of the like specific reasons as to why, but very clearly, God in His Bible says that, like, when we experience God, like when John is writing about the throne room in Revelation, he's like, people are experiencing God, and what it's doing, it's compelling them towards praise and worship. Yeah. It's compelling them towards singing. And so, like, who are you and I to be like, yeah, you know what? Like, I'm good with that here while I'm on earth. To your point, like, well, then heaven's gonna be real boring for me because I'm just not interested in singing. When we get together on a Sunday morning, it is not about listening to the worship team crush it. I hope that people don't think that that's what it is. We do a lot of work to try to get ourselves out of the way, and we're not always successful because we're human beings. But that is what we're trying to do. We're saying, even if I don't believe this, I can still sing it because I believe it's going to put my heart in a better place. And I guess maybe just to end, I'd like to hear kind of what you think about that, because man, I think as a worship leader, I have walked into plenty of rehearsals and Sunday mornings where I'm like, I'm looking at the set list. I'm like, it is well with my soul. Yeah. Like, God, I don't know that I could sing that this morning. Yeah. And so, like, if I'm thinking that as the person who probably planned the song for the congregant that walks in and is like, yeah, you know what? I just don't feel like singing, I'm going to take you at your word. I don't feel like singing that you've been so good, God. I don't feel like singing it as well with my soul. Right. What do you think that, why do you think God would want me to sing anyway?
Because it's obedience.
Come on.
It's at a place where you're saying, God, I don't understand this, but I still understand. I still know who you are.
Yeah.
We sang this week. Worship was. I had the great opportunity to be in service.
Never happens.
I know. I'm usually on every week, which is great. But I had a week off, and I was able to just come and sing, and we sang "Been So Good," and that line. For your forgiveness, for how you never turned away. And it just hit me like, God, I mean, in all the crap that I've done and all the things, all the ways that I've walked away from him, he's never walked away from me.
Right.
And even, and so I think we did take you at your word, but taking God at his word and saying like, even when things don't look great, you are still good.
Yeah.
And I think that God says, when I think of, Job, when he said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, but blessed be the name of the Lord.
Right.
Doesn't matter where my circumstances put me. God still deserves praise, and he still is on the throne and still deserves our worship. Yeah. And that's the kind of attitude we have to have. And like I said, whether you want to sing out loud or you want to sit or you want to pray or you want to close your eyes, and you have just to be engaged in what is being said and being part of your community.
Yeah.
And,
it's huge.
And being...
It's a huge part of it, yeah.
So I think... I guess it's maybe will sound harsh, but I don't think it's an option.
Yeah. No, you nailed it.
It's not an option to worship. It's you may choose to do it in a different way. I am married to a man who's not a big hand raiser, who's not a big, but he's engaged. Yeah. There are times where I'm on the platform and my husband does raise his hand, and I know but he's always engaged. He's never just tuning out because I'm not a singer. I don't really love music. Yeah. I'm not into it. He's engaged with the lyric. He's just he's focusing himself on what he needs to be. But I don't think it's an option.
Yeah. It's obedience.
It's obedience. It's just saying, God, this right now stinks and I don't like it, but you still deserve praise and I will give it. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Yeah, come on. It's a classic. No, I think that's it, man. I know for myself that I think that people would assume that you and I have an easier time doing it. I think we have an easier time hitting whatever key the song is in, but I don't think either of us have an easier time than anybody else about getting our hearts right. Sometimes it's harder because it's my job. I got to get up there and I got to do it. And sometimes I don't want to, people could see you or I on stage and be like, that's just natural for them. Right. And I would say that it isn't, the obedience is like, I'm being obedient to be humble, which never feels good. No. And so like, if I'm being obedient up there and I'm being humble up there, that isn't always going to feel like the thing I want to do that day. But God has called me to engage in worship in this way. He's called me to engage in praise this way. And you're exactly right. Like if we believe God is who he says he is, then he deserves every bit of our praise. And it doesn't necessarily matter how I walked in on Sunday morning. The whole goal with the music in general is to provide a space and time where you have a second to just be like, okay, I'm going to sing this. Even if I don't believe it, I'm going to sing it. Even if I'm on the mountaintop or in the valley or all of these different things, God, I'm going to use my voice to sing. Not to get too preachy about it, but there's a verse in Hosea that I love. It pops up in the Old Testament occasionally. But the phrasing in Hosea, he says, you bring an offering of your words to the Lord. And like the verbiage there in the original language is talking about like you're literally bringing like a sacrifice of your words. Yeah. So like these words these songs we're choosing, they're chosen for a reason. Yeah. So like I got to bring an offering of that, and that's obedience. Yep. That's what it is.
Because there's times where, like you said, like even at the worship team, you're like, this is not the first thing I feel like doing right now. And I'm being honest. Like, there's times where I walk in and I'm like, all right, God, I got to get my heart right because whether or not I'm believing this right now, help me to sing this and believe it, right? I'm going to sing it out of obedience. Help me to help somebody else believe it, right? And I think that's kind of our job. But I think it's, just because we're on the platform, I always like to think of it. I don't want to be like, I'm worshiping to you. I'm worshiping with you.
Right.
And that's
we're doing it together.
Right. And so the idea is that we're all kind of in a place where there's, I've seen it with the team. Like there's times where people come in and they're like, they're struggling with something big, and they, maybe been so good is hard to verbiage, right? But they do out of obedience, because God is still good.
Yeah, He is, man. He is.
But I think it's just a matter of getting our hearts in a place of humility, of saying, God, this is what you want from your people.
And that is the net of it.
And you deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are worthy of all of our praise and all our honor and all of our attention. And that is what worship is designed to do. And that's why we're using music in the first place. Yeah. Just helps you get a little bit of a better headspace. And it is all right if you listen to Prince.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
You're not going to go to the fiery place just for listening to Prince, but again,
no, it's just a matter of saying, like, okay, is like you say, all things are permissible, or not all things are profitable.
Yep.
What is it profiting me? Maybe it's you listen to, but to just immerse yourself in it. I think the same thing about movies, about books. Anything that you're just like, it's just it's allowing your mind to kind of get there. And
also, if you listen to some more worship songs, you'll know the songs that we sing.
Yes, true story.
Before we sing them. So you'll be able to sing along. It'll be so great. You'll be like, I know this song already. We're not just picking these songs out of thin air. They do exist. You can listen to them.
They do.
Well, I think that's great, Mom. And I'm so grateful to have you on.
It was honestly so fun. It was like, I could do this all the time.
I love you a lot.
I love you too.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All
Bye.
right.